Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're playing an Earthright Mysteria build. It's a lot of fun. I wanted to get into it again as I don't mind the Earthright decks and I really like the Mysteria concept. It's always been a fun one and I really hope it gets expanded in the future. Of course we've seen a few of the cards now and honestly it's probably not going to be completely expanded upon, but hopefully maybe one day we'll have some more cards for it. So we're going to get right into it and check it out. So the first match is actually pretty decent against a fellow Rune player, so not a big surprise there. Rune is very popular, especially Giant Chimera, which we did cover recently, so definitely a deck I recommend you check out if you're looking for something a little bit better than this one, honestly. So we have a Silent Laboratory, a Mystic Rune, a Magic Mage Levi, all pretty decent cards. Mystic Rune I do like to play out in the beginning if I've got something to use it with. In this situation I didn't really have anything to use it with, but it's still an okay card and it's just something I was getting used to playing out. I wasn't sure whether turn 1 or turn 5 was the optimal play for it in the Mysteria Rune deck, and I feel like turn 5 may be better, but in that situation there are other cards that you really want to play, so it is a difficult choice. Now, of course, we've got a few decent options here. I mean, Silent Laboratory is the only option, so a few decent options. I don't really have a decent way to burn a lot of these Earth Sigils though, at least not quickly. I didn't unfortunately draw any of my really heavy cards, which would have been nice to use. Luckily we get the Mysterian Knowledge though, which is going to quite easily cripple our opponent Earth Rune player and allow us to get a decent little bit of damage to their face. It's definitely a good setup and one that I quite enjoyed. Of course they do get the Myriad out early, which is a little disappointing for me. Of course, that's not the worst thing that could happen. There definitely could have been worse situations to be in right now. And our Mysterian Founder is still going to get its play off. And we can pretty comfortably kill things.
So it was you, after all.
So opponent gets their Mysterian right off, which is really good, honestly. I think that's probably one of the better plays. At least Levi will clear that off, get some damage to the face, and set up a nice 4/4 body for us, along with clearing out some board space. Pity I didn't save it till next turn, as it would have been a much better play next turn, clearing out this, but, I mean, it still did its job fairly well, and I can't really doubt it for that. It just was quite a nice round to play. The Cagliostro though is a fairly decent draw and is going to allow us to pick up a couple of kills. Not in any effective manner though, as we are going to have to use the Ars Mangus on the 6/1 since we didn't draw a decent spell out of our Mysterian. So this was definitely not a traditional Mysterian Rune deck play. You wanted to normally burn your opponent down a bit more than this by now, but it did work out towards the end, I guess. We've got a reasonable amount of damage. We've built up a fairly okay Mysteria so far. And we've definitely got the options available. So we are going to get the couple of pings off. We're going to get a ping off the circle as well, which is also quite decent. So I can't really fault that. With the Fuzz is going to let us play a couple of spells along with draw a card. Luckily Chain Lightning was the draw, so that's actually really good. It is going to let us get a fairly decent amount of damage off before killing off the 4/3, along with setting off this ward. And with the Mysterian Wormist in hand, we should be able to go for lethal next turn.
Death is another fiction.
My strength was too much.
And that should close out the game pretty easily. I mean, this is going to deal a 4 damage to face really easily, and the opponent obviously sees that and concedes, so really not too shabby. And next up we are against Forest. Forest hasn't made a big splash for a little while, at least not in the rotation scene, but I have noticed a bit of a pickup in its play in the last few days. It is a good counter to Portal, which has always been the case, but I feel like it was still lacking, at least even in that matchup. So it's not a surprise that we've seen a fairly sharp decrease in Forest players overall on ladder compared to a lot of the other decks around. But we start off pretty reasonably with these cards. Getting our Mysteria turn 1 play is always a good thing, especially when it sets up a Mysteria turn 2 play as well. We're going to be able to kill off the 1-3, and we're going to be able to boost down the Light Mage quite nicely. And of course we get a fairly decent Witch's Cauldron play as well.
Don't come closer.
Just a little wither. Anyone call for
Cagliostro the Adorable Genius is going to pretty easily kill this off. Basically 2-for-1ing at this point.
fun? Now to trample all over you.
I mean, we can wipe out 2 cards for 1, so why wouldn't you do that? Plus we can keep the Asmangus for next turn. Asmanga, sorry. It's going to be a fairly decent play overall. But this turn is not looking quite so great, honestly. This is definitely a rough turn for me, having to potentially clear out as much of this as I can. Especially when it's a turn off Master Mage. All I can really do is set up the Master Mage for next turn and probably kill off the 4-4 play. Although I probably should have hit the 3-2, but this will at least hopefully force an Evo turn, which we can probably take advantage of. So the Insect Lord kind of crippling me. But again, we've got the Master Mage Levi, so it's going to be a pretty big decider play this turn.
crunchy.
The name's Levi, don't forget.
It's not the most optimal way to have to do this, but we have that many spells in our hand now that we really aren't worried about too big of a board from our opponent, and really only worried about storm damage, so a 6-1 should be respectable enough to hold us off, at least this turn. And we can go face, Mysterium Missile, even use our nice Mysterian Right to set up a nice ward, and Asmangus to face, leaving them on 2 and available for either double Magic Missile or Chain Lightning next turn, and ending our game quite abruptly, so not a big surprise that it went that way in the end. So this deck is pretty respectable and a lot of fun. It's reasonably expensive, requiring a good source of gold and legendaries, but not as expensive as some of the other top decks at the moment, so I would recommend giving it a go if you've got the cards, or just looking for something a little different to play, as it's definitely worth a shot. So, till next time, check out the deck list in the description below, hit the like button and subscribe for more content, leave me a comment if you enjoyed the content as well, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.